Welcome back to the Office Marketing Podcast with Mike Swigert, the podcast all about sales tips, mindset, and value bombs. 5 questions to help make your day more productive and learn a thing or two. Here is your host, best-selling author, Mike Swigert.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Office Marketing Podcast. I have a really, really special guest today. His name is Jim OConnor. Jim is the president and CEO of Commercial Works. They have got offices all over the country. Jim comes to us with just a wonderful business acumen, wonderful career progression from his time at The Ohio State University to where he is today. Jim really prides himself on being just a rock star problem solver. I'm going to let him get into it deeply today, but I'm really kind of curious to hear more about how he takes teams, builds teams, and just makes every place that he touches a little better. So, Jim, thank you for coming on. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it, Mike. Appreciate the opportunity.
Well, Jim, we've actually been friends for a couple years now. Our first encounter was on the golf course, one of our favorite places to be. And I'm glad we came full circle and you were able to be a guest.
No, I appreciate the invite and look forward to our conversation today.
Well, hey, Jim, why don't you talk to us, walk us through coming from The Ohio State University to where you are today. How did you get here?
Okay. Well, when I graduated from Ohio State, I had a great opportunity with a business that was growing quickly and they were expanding throughout the country. Started in Columbus, Ohio. I relocated to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and then I took over a business in Indianapolis, Indiana. And this was a sizable business, 150,000 square foot facility. And we took that business from a troubled organization to distribution of the year, which really set us up and taught me some things about how to get value from other people. From there, I took on a larger facility in Charlotte, North Carolina, moved my family to Charlotte. From there, it was a division in Dallas, Texas to cover a number of facilities. From there, we moved into a different division up in the Northeast out of Philadelphia. And then I moved into private equity. I got engaged with a pet products business, which is a great business to be in. We sold that business. And then from there, my family and I moved to California, beautiful part of California. And I managed a recycling toner business. From there, we finished with that opportunity. And then it was my wife and family was thinking about where's the next role? And it was to go back to someplace familiar. And I took on a role at Commercial Works as president and CEO of the organization.
Yeah, kudos to your family for being patient and loving to follow you all around the country. Really, absolute. You should be very grateful for having such a wonderful family. They still like you, don't they, Jim?
They do. I've been blessed with a great family. I have a son who lives in Columbus. I have a daughter who lives in Nashville, and thankfully, my wife lives in Columbus with me.
That's great. So, what's a big takeaway? I mean, you had nice progression. You and I kind of talked in our pre-call. Every time you were learning a little something, right? What were some of your biggest takeaways as you went from company to company? Like, what was your personal development like during that path?
I think when people ask me that question, it's really not the win in terms of growing the business or what we did to fix it or grow it. It's the people that I encountered, the lives that were changed, where there's a great story of a fella who was he pulled orders at night in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then he just solved every problem. And then he went up in the organization in Charlotte and he followed me to Dallas. He took over a facility in Baltimore. And now he has a nice 6-figure income in Georgia, well, running his own business down there that he's been hired to do. And this is a person that, you impacted his life, but he doesn't realize how much he impacted mine.
That's cool. What was your biggest takeaway from him? Like, what's one thing that you learned from him?
The attitude. He had every opportunity and a set of cards to just be a victim. Everything was against him. But when you saw this person, he put a smile on your face. He solved problems. He overcame challenges. I asked him when we were having issues in Baltimore, he was in Dallas, and I asked him, would he come to Baltimore and help me solve that problem? I said, we're putting the band back together again. And he just said yes. He didn't talk about how much are you going to pay me? This is what I need. It's, I'll come and solve the problem. And I think that's just set him up for so much success. But again, more so, it's taught me.
That's great. That's great. I love having people like that around me. I mean, I think the older I get, the more I'm in awe of just people like that. Like I love this guy already. I haven't met him, but I can't wait to meet him. Yeah. Make sure you make a good intro for me, will you, Jim?
Yes, I will. And that's replicated itself in so many locations. As I look back at an Indianapolis, or I look back at what we did the pet products, or in California, I think of the people. I think that was such a smart individual, a hard worker. They were just, they were making the planet such a better place by just their mere existence and how they operated.
Yeah, I love that. I feel, what is it? Is it Jim Rohn that said you're a direct reflection of your 5 closest people in your life? Right. I think that's kind of, yes. Maybe he may have regurgitated from somebody else too, but like, I love that concept of, be picky on who those people are that are in your circle. And when you get amazing people, you get them close and you hug them and you love them and you want them to be in your circle as much as possible. Talk to me about, what goes in your day to day? Like, how do you take all these great lessons learned, and how is it impacting you in 2021?
Well, how I start every one of my days is I have a set of goals. I have 3 to 4 goals that I'm expecting to accomplish on that given day. They're written down, they're documented. I have a file of them of every single day that I come to work, that this is what I expected to accomplish. Did I accomplish it? And I teach people who work for me, you have to give me a date. If you're going to create a P&L for us each month, well, what's the date that's due? And that could be the 15th is what, we make a date, the 15th. Well, some things happen. I understand that. But on the 15th, you're supposed to tell me if it's not going to get done. I don't want to figure out on the 17th that it hasn't been done and then find out the reason. And I think that builds expectations in people, and it separates people of those who really can find ways to get things done, overcome obstacles, and those that, are just moving along the stream of what we call life, just floating along.
Well, we're both parents. And that's so funny you should say that. I just had this conversation with a buddy of mine recently, and we both agreed. And I got great advice about 20 years ago from my son's godfather, who's a very, very accomplished businessman too. But he said, this was his advice, but he said mother's responsibility in motherhood would be to create a womb of love for their children and help them feel comfortable and sort of like just be comfortable being themselves inside that womb and just be unconditionally loved. And he said one of the keys of a great dad is to consistently be pushing them out of their comfort zone. Now, I know in this whole world of gender identity that may not be politically correct, but that's one of the things we do in our family is that my wife is wonderful. She loves our children and they're always comfortable where they are. And my job is to be like, hey, what's next? What are we doing? Do you have goals? And that's one thing we do in our house is really, and with my team too, is what are your goals? Like if you're 8, be the best 8-year-old. If you're 17, be the best 17-year-old. And that's, by the way, that carries over to business. That carries over to everything.
This episode of the Office Marketing Podcast is brought to you by Fusion Advisory. We help commercial contractors generate leads online profitably. Check us out at fusion-advisory.com.
It does. My father was a chemical engineer by training, and then he found his way into, sales and running a business because he liked the scorecard. He liked that it controlled. It was a little outside his comfort zone in that, but that was the advice that he gave me. Control your own destiny as much as you can.
Well, my daughter's at Georgia Tech. She would agree with that. There's something about that sort of engineering mind that says, hey, let's control the things we can control. That's pretty awesome. Sounds like a good dad. So what's advice that you could take from these amazing stops you've had, as a CEO and president of a very large company right now? What's some great advice you could give other business leaders in 2021, as we're probably already planning for 2022?
Well, I see a lot of people get exhausted, or some of the people who work managers, with problems that come to them on a daily basis. And I always talk to them about, your job is to deal with problems. You cannot let those get to you. You have to come out from an optimist view of knowing that each day somebody's going to come to you with a problem, multitude of problems, and they're going to be difficult problems. And so what I tell everyone is that you achieve through overcoming obstacles. That's what you do. And you look at each day to see, what is going to stop me from hitting one of those 3 or 4 goals I've written down today. And it could be a meeting, it could be another issue that's come up, but it's taken a view that my job is really to solve problems and point the way.
So going into your goal setting, though, like, do you kind of put them in categories? I mean, where are you getting, do you talk to me about your 3 goals a day? Where does that tie? Does that tie to a bigger picture?
Yes. There are two sets. There are the things that have to be done today because they need to be done today, and there's directionally where we want to go with this company. So setting up a website, what are we going to do for leads? What is a job that we have for our sales and marketing person to lead this company? So getting some feedback from them, really getting their goals and their targets, and how do we define success from them. So
that's good. Yeah, I think you and I could have an entire probably hour conversation on how do you define success, right? I mean, yeah. That's such a you know what, really quick, in a nickel tour, how do you define success?
It's recognized by the profit and loss statement is one of the ways, but also the people, the team that you've surrounded yourself with. I have never had a situation. I've had situations where you come in and it's just an unhappy crew, but I want folks who enter my buildings, all the businesses that I manage, to want to walk into that door. I understand it's work and some days are going to be better than others, but I want them to enjoy and know that it's a positive workplace. Not always pleasant. You're not going to always agree, but you're going to feel appreciated and heard.
I love it. I love it. Can you share with us any systems or any tips to help the team be heard, to help your team even love where they work a little more?
Okay. One of the things, when I'm in a difficult position and by difficult, it's just trying to flush out what does success look like, I will follow up, whether it be with a vendor or anybody. I would say, what is the best outcome that you would look for from this meeting we're having? What would you like to see happen? How do you define success? And putting the onus on them to, really drill down at what can make them happy, what makes them most productive.
So having a sort of that dialogue or that ownership, letting the team feel like they own the challenge and they're part of the solution.
Right. I can go into our meeting where we're trying to develop something, call it a website or a different brand. And I would go, okay, we're having this meeting. what are you looking for? What's the goal from this meeting? You have my time. What are you looking for? And then I'm looking for them to come up with something that we can hang our hat on, a real end result, nothing wishy-washy or anything like that. Something that we can define success by.
Yeah, I like it, Jim. You've got a great blueprint for success, right? So let's see, have a dialogue with the team to overcome challenges, goal setting, and hold the team accountable to the dates that they're committing to things.
Yeah.
That sounds like an amazing formula for success right there.
Yeah. One of the things I learned from one of the organizations that I worked for, and they sent you through an industrial psychologist and really got a lot of feedback from you. But for any high performing person, their greatest strength is also their greatest weakness. And so it's understanding that. So if you're a very goal-oriented person, you're deadline-oriented, you tend to work in a straight line. So your greatest weakness may not be hearing from other people, taking the time out to say hello or that. And so when you learn that, you put some barriers up to teach yourself as a manager, this is what I have to do to be the best I can be.
I love that. I am blessed to have a wife that is an occupational therapist, right? And since she's been home more and she's been doing virtual therapy with people, she works with a lot of kids in the school system, a local school system here. And I've learned so much about sales by listening to her do evaluations, because the first 20 minutes, it's literally just an interview process with the parents and the children and what are they doing. And I'm hearing it, and it's literally just through osmosis. I'm listening to these amazing conversations, and she touches on so many things. And I'm like, I wish salespeople would do a little bit more of that in their conversations.
I get that, and it's hard for me, but listening is the most powerful tool, and trying to understand what the problem is and trying to resolve that problem. And I hear from salespeople all the time when go, whether it's a space planning job, a furniture job, or a move, have you gotten an answer? No, I haven't heard back from them. And then sometimes I always go, well, sometimes no answer is an answer.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But what is that pain point, right? So going back to the occupational therapy thing, it's like, you can't make an assessment. You can't write a plan for therapy unless you really know what the problems are. And you can't even write a plan, and you can't even write a plan for therapy until you know the commitment of what the parents have with the kids, right? So imagine if maybe I should write a ebook on sales tips I learned from occupational therapists, right? Hey, start out, do a real evaluation, and this is so cool that how do we get granular and listen? Because what if your conversation every day was, hey, what's the biggest pain point of that client? And then all of a sudden the salespeople start going, well, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how much they want to spend per square foot. Right. And,
correct.
But wouldn't that be fun? And you know what, I'm going to challenge myself to do that even more this week and just try to dial down a little bit more.
Yeah. It's as a leadership, it's bringing focus and clarity to an organization, and it's understanding, the talent that you have and how do you grow that talent. You have it, and you have a team, and I've had teams, and I'm just amazed by the intellectual powerhouses that are on that team that bring something that I don't know, and it's creating the environment that they bring you those ideas.
Yeah.
It takes a lot in a meeting for some people to put their hand up and go out there and say, hey, here's my idea. And you have to put an environment together where they want to put that hand up.
I love it. All right, let's talk a little bit more about you, right? What's something about Jim OConnor that not everybody knows?
Well, I would say you've played golf with me, so you know this, but I love golf. I put in a lot of time on it. I read about it. I put in so much time that I should be very good at it, and I'm very poor. Okay, and that aligns with my guitar playing. I love music. I have a collection of guitars. I play guitar. I just play it very poorly. My children say whenever I go somewhere they don't know I play guitar, I have a solid 6 seconds. Just play your 6 seconds and put the guitar down.
I love this. All right. So I'm going to ask you a golf question, and you can't put me in your foursome. You're filling out your foursome. Anybody in time, Jim, right? Anybody at their peak in the history of the earth. Who are you filling out your foursome with? Who are your other three?
Okay, it's very easy. My father would be there. I have 5 brothers and sisters. Unfortunately, my father passed away very early. I would love to have had the opportunity to have him in the foursome. I'd have to put my brother in. I enjoy playing with my brother. The third would be Jack Nicklaus. I'm from Columbus. Okay, and I just want to be on the tee box with my brother and my father when Jack Nicklaus walks up, and they just look at me and say, "How did I arrange this?"
I love it. I love it. That would be fun. You know, most people are like, "Oh, I want, Jack and Ernie and Tiger," or, I don't know if you could have given me a better foursome. That sounds awesome. I mean, that really is. That's the coup de grace for an Ohio boy. That's really cool. So when it comes to role models or mentors, I mean, it sounds like you're blessed with a pretty good dad. Where are we going with your favorite role models or mentors?
Here's what I would say. I was not my father, a chemical engineer by training, was as focused a person as you could ever imagine. He passed away as I was finishing up high school. I had college ahead of me, and one of his good friends who had some influence in the organization said to me, "I will help you as long as you help yourself first." And he helped me get through college. He put the path forward. It was not an easy path of just I'll make it work. It was you have to give me a call, and you have to talk about your grades, and we have to go through it. And this was before it was you pay it forward, but that was one thing he always told me. He said, "You do it for somebody else someday." And that's kind of what I've tried to live.
All right. So it sounds like you've done this for a lot of people. I mean, you've touched a lot of lives since then. Has there anybody that you've gotten really that granular with, that you've gotten that mentorish with in your lifetime?
I have there is a fella who we talked a little about this. A fella, he picked orders at night in Charlotte, North Carolina. He was being brought up by his grandmother. Every time, he had such a great disposition, this person. He had a smile on his face. Every time I gave him an issue or there was an issue in the organization, he resolved it. That person became the night supervisor. He became the warehouse manager. He became the operations manager at our Dallas operation. He went to Greensboro. He went up to help me out in a big challenge in Baltimore. And now that fellow's running a big organization, doing very well, has a nice family, and we talk quite often on that. And let me just shoot this quick one here because it's about grace. It's an employee was having just a difficult time in Philadelphia, and I was having a difficult time with the business. And I remember going in the office at 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, and tucked under my door was a note from her about the impact that I had in her life, and what she, because of just something simple I did for her a couple days prior. And she was going through a tough time on a tough day, and I was very impactful to her, and she wanted me to know that. Brightened up my day, and I didn't have a problem for a week. And I still have that note to this day.
That's so cool. There's nothing people don't understand the power of notes. Like really, I'm 50. The best note I ever got was in 2014, right? So 2014, my son was 9, right? He's 9 years old. I'm doing oh no, this is 2010. Sorry about that. This is 2010. I'm doing the Augusta half Ironman, right? 11 years ago. So he was 6 at the time. So my son's 6, and I wake up to leave for the race, right? And there's a note on my bedside table because he knew I was leaving really early in the morning to go to the race. So, and all it said, it was on a little Post-it note, and it said, "Dad, you're a badass." Love, Reed, right? And so, and obviously, he's heard, I've taught spin classes, and everything like that. And he actually spelled it Badazz. So it wasn't cursing. He was not cursing. Right. But, and I kept that with me during that race. Right. And it's so funny is I remember I crushed the bike, crushed the swim, and I'm about like 6 miles into the run, and I'm dragging butt on the run, right? I can tell you how visual and how clear it was, Jim. Reed was with me on that run, and all I could see was his little 6-year-old blonde hair, mop top, little green eyes looking at me going like, "Dad, you're a badass. Dad, you're a bad." And I'm just like running the entire time, and I'm thinking, I can't let this little guy down, And to this day, seriously, and I had it with me the entire race. I literally carried it with me, and the power of notes really never goes out of style.
Yep. I just ending 2020 wrote notes, and I've wrote notes throughout my career because I've received them. Now my handwriting is atrocious, and I remember somebody in my organization said, "I received a note from Jim OConnor, but I can't read it." And they said, "Don't worry about it. It's handwritten. It's all good."
That's awesome. I love that. Hey, you know what? That's very genuine. Yeah, I mean, at least you know what? That's the ultimate in authenticity. I love it, Jim. I really do. Hey, is there I almost want to ask you your favorite golf course, but if you want to tell me, you pick one. You want to pick a favorite book or favorite golf course? What do you want to tell us about?
I'll talk about books.
All right,
okay.
Go.
I'll talk. One of the things I do when I get a book, it's aged, but it's correct. And I passed it out to managers who are just starting, but it's called The 1 Minute Manager. It's a very easy read. It talks about how you treat people, how you coach people, and how you get things done through people on that. And I think there's some great lessons in that. And so that's my management book. My sales book is How to Get Your Competition Fired without saying anything bad about them. And it's creating a unique selling proposition, a wedge to say, and that's one of the books that I give my sales team on that. Now, I also the book out there, great at email, that I got to read. So I'm good.
I hear the authors. Fantastic. All right. Still, I'm not going to leave you hanging. Really, is there a golf course you've never played before other than Augusta National that you would like to play?
I have to tell the story because I did get to play it last year, but Muirfield here in Dublin, Ohio. Yeah. I live in Muirfield now, but as a child or boy, I caddied at Muirfield. And I just thought when I got to Columbus, that was one of my goals. How do I get on Muirfield? And I was given that opportunity to play, and I just want to do it again on that. So Muirfield is the top notch.
All right. Well, I'll share a funny Nicklaus story with you. My son was in 9th grade. He's playing in our club championship. He's a pretty good golfer. He's playing in the men's club division, right? And so I think it's Mike Nicklaus. I always get Gary and Mike mixed up, right? So it's day 2, and my son's paired up with, I'm pretty sure it's Mike Nicklaus, right? So he's paired up with Mike day 2. He had a good round the first day. I think he shot like even the first day, and he's going to the second day. And I get to the course, and I'm like, Reed, you're playing with Mike Nicklaus. He goes, yeah. He's in ninth grade. It's kind of not even hitting his head that it's Mike Nicklaus. And I look over, and 30 feet away is Jack is working with him on his putting before the round. He just happened to be in town, and he came out on the putting green. And he's kind of giving him some tips, right? And I'm just like, holy crap, that's Jack Nicklaus giving my son's competitor tips right before they play. And I thought you'd appreciate that. Reed, he was just oblivious. He was just kind of like, oh, that's Jack Nicklaus. Like, yeah, I didn't pick up on that. It's such the ninth grader to like literally see your anyway. It was fun to watch. It was a fun dad moment.
Yeah, Jack's the best.
Yeah, he's very, very cool. All right, so if people wanted to get in touch with Jim OConnor, what's the best way to do it?
Through LinkedIn.
Okay.
All
right. If you guys are looking for Jim, it's actually James OConnor, James OConnor, President and CEO of Commercial Works. And Jim, I'll put your link in the show notes too, so people will be able to get in touch with you that way. But I tell you what, Jim, you're an absolute joy always to talk to. I can't wait until we get back out on the links, hopefully sooner than later. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Mike. And we got to figure out, that's going to be one of my goals, to get myself back to Atlanta and swing the club. Okay?
Open invite, brother. All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Okay, take care. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Office Marketing Podcast. Be sure to join the conversation on our YouTube channel, LinkedIn, and Facebook pages. If you enjoyed the episode, head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.